Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Today we're in Psalm 63, and this Psalm of David is one of satisfaction, and you're going to hear that word used a couple different times over the course of our study today. But it's one of truly being satisfied with your relationship with God and with understanding that God is going to be there for us. And so David is going to illustrate that mentality in Psalm 63. Let's look at what he says, beginning in verse 1. O God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and thirsty land where there is no water. So I have looked for you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory. Because your loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise you. Thus I will bless you while I live. I will lift up my hands in your name. My soul shall be satisfied as with marrow and fatness, and my mouth shall praise you with joyful lips. When I remember you on my bed, I meditate on you in the night watches, because you have been my help. Therefore in the shadow of your wings I will rejoice. My soul follows close behind you. Your right hand upholds me. But those who seek my life to destroy it shall go into the lower parts of the earth. They shall fall by the sword. They shall be a portion for jackals. But the king shall rejoice in God. Everyone who swears by him shall glory. But the mouth of those who speak lies shall be stopped. As you examine Psalm 63, there's several things that we could point out from this particular passage. But let's just take a moment and look at a couple of them. The first one is the idea of remembering at night. And David is going to talk about in verse 6, he says, When I remember you on my bed, I meditate on you in the night watches, because you have been my help. Therefore, in the shadow of your wings, I will rejoice. David talks about this idea of remembering, of being mindful of God at night. And, oftentimes, even for us, this is the time when everything starts to wind down, when it is the quietest, when we are the most reflective on what has happened over the course of the day, what is going on in our lives, what it is that we're looking forward to tomorrow. David says it is at that time that I remember you and I meditate on you. I think about what it is that God has done, what it is that God is going to do. And he says, because you have been my help, I will rejoice. This is not a matter of hoping God is going to do something. This is remembering everything that God has done leading up to this point. We are to be those who are mindful and who remember what God has done for us. So many times people carry the mentality of, what has God done for me lately? Or what has God done for me right now? But when we remember and take time to think about the fact of what God has done for us in the past, how God has been there for us, how God has helped us, and all of the different ways that things have worked out in our lives that maybe we weren't sure how they would, it helps us to be stronger and to be more focused in pointing ourselves toward problems in the future or things with which we're dealing right now. And so David says that I remember you on my bed. But then he also talks about the idea of, in the midst of all of that, he leads up to that with the concept of his soul being satisfied in verse 5. Satisfaction is something that is very important, because being satisfied means there's a recognition and a comfort with having enough. There are many people in this world who are never satisfied. It doesn't matter how much they have. It doesn't matter what type of position they reach. It doesn't matter how successful they are in life. It doesn't matter how well things have gone for them in life. They're never satisfied. And yet, David here talks about the idea of being satisfied with God. He goes back in verse 3 and says, "Because your loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise you. I will bless you while I live. I will lift up my hands in your name, and my soul shall be satisfied." But then he goes on to say, as with marrow and fatness. This idea of, as with the richest blessings in life, the full weight of, as it were, a full stomach. He has been given everything that he needs, and he is satisfied, both in his relationship with God, in the help that God has given him, and in the situation, the circumstances in which he finds himself. Even though at the end of the psalm he talks about those who are lying about him and those that are mistreating him and things of that nature, he's still satisfied because he knows he has God, and he remembers the role that God plays in all things and the way that God has always been there for him. As you examine Psalm 63, it truly is a psalm about recognizing and desiring that relationship with God and learning to be satisfied with what God has given, the way that God has taken care of us, and in the hope that we have in God, not just for today, but for tomorrow as well. Thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Next time we'll come back and we'll begin looking at Psalm 64. I hope you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.